absolutely wrecked, pummeled, plowed, and pounded my wife's cousin. I met my partner Sarah's cousin, Lauren, and her husband for dinner at Sarah's parents' place. She immediately stares at me a bit wide-eyed and I can't help but think she looks familiar. We're all being introduced to each other and Lauren for the most part seems to be acting normally but she's still staring at me whenever she can. Sarah's parents then come in with Lauren's little boy who's 5 years old. I'm looking at this kid and Lauren and the only thing I can think of is that this boy looks like a carbon copy of me at his age with some Lauren mixed in. I'm suddenly starting to remember that I took Lauren home from a bar close to 6 years ago, and I also remember convincing her to not use protection after I showed her my blood work. I'm just a sweaty nervous mess for the rest of dinner and I think Lauren realizes from how she looked at me and the boy that maybe I realized too. And an even more messed up part, I think Lauren was visiting Sarah the weekend I took her home. They probably had a girls' night out that weekend with their friends and I took Lauren home, so Sarah was probably at the same bar that night. Sarah asked me if I was okay and I just told her I wasn't feeling well. I didn't go to work yesterday and today and just took sick days. What the F to do? Lauren obviously isn't saying anything. I have no clue if she was married at the time and I don't want to ask Sarah because I don't want her getting suspicious about me asking. I don't even know how I feel about possibly being a father. I'm 95% sure this kid is mine. Looked nothing like the husband. Do I just shut up? I never cheated on Sarah obviously but she knows how much of a player I was and it took her a while to get past my number. I don't know how she'd react if she knows I knocked up her cousin years before knowing her. This is vain and superficial about Sarah and I love her to death but she absolutely hates it if something is considered trashy or low class. I honestly think it's possible she'd leave me if I knocked up her cousin. I can't lose her. She's literally the best thing that's ever happened to me. Update, after 3 days of staying at home and feeling sick to my stomach with nervousness about this, I finally told Sarah late last night after my last post. As embarrassing as it is I cried from beginning to end telling Sarah and pretty much told her I don't want to live without her. She held my hands in bed and patiently listened about how I recognized Lauren, remembered our night, and how seeing that kid mentally broke me because I saw my future with Sarah jeopardized as soon as I saw him. She told me she's upset I didn't tell her as soon as we left her parents' place and to never keep something like this from her again but she understood I was scared. She said she's not leaving me because I never betrayed her in the last 3 years we've been together and we'll figure this out too. And she said she'll reach out to Lauren herself and figure out what's going on because she's been with her husband for 10 years now and if she's my ONS from years ago she definitely cheated. We then had an even more uncomfortable feeling about the type of things I've done in my past and wanted to know if there's any more surprises she needs to be ready for. Said she knew I was promiscuous and a bit of a reckless idiot but we kind of swept everything under the rug when we got together because we both agreed we wanted a fresh start, and after this fiasco that might have been a bad idea so she wants to know everything in detail now but we can have that talk another time. I don't feel great about this but I'll deal with this hurdle when it comes up. Sarah has been home with me trying to get in touch with Lauren since morning and has been getting completely stonewalled. Finally Lauren texted her to please just let it go. Sarah asked her again if they could just have a quick chat or even if text is okay but Lauren insisted to just let it go please. I'm guessing Lauren realized I told Sarah everything. We don't know how to proceed from here on out. We're deciding to just respect her wishes and not pursue this further. Lauren also just changed her response to our wedding invite to a no-show. Sarah is kind of upset by this but honestly I'm fine with this outcome. We always plan to leave the US in a few years anyway. I got a lot of messages asking me to just shut up and I was honestly ready to go that route but I think the worry was actually physically making me sick. Anyway, thanks everyone for the advice, much appreciated. Update, I've had literally dozens of people messaging me asking for an update. Sarah and Lauren have been texting since my last update, mostly Lauren apologizing because she won't be coming to our wedding. She also sent us some wedding and Christmas gifts which were very sweet of her. Sarah didn't really push her for answers but left an open invitation to talk whenever Lauren felt comfortable. A few days before Christmas Lauren FaceTimed Sarah and told her everything. Her and her husband were going through a rough patch in their wedding at the time. He had an emotional affair with a coworker and they were separated for a few weeks before reconciling. Lauren met me early on during the separation when we had our one-night stand. She told Sarah I'm the only one she ever hooked up with during this separation. Soon after she realized she was pregnant she reconciled with her husband. They had been trying with no luck so just decided to raise the child as their own. Lauren said she's told her husband and it's caused some turmoil in their marriage and they're working through it now. He knew about this nameless faceless man but seeing me in the flesh and knowing after the fact that I'm the one guy has been a bit traumatic for him and he's feeling very insecure. So unfortunately he never wants us to ever interact or be in the same room again. I was listening right out of view from the camera but I couldn't help but ask Lauren if this means I can never see the boy. She just said she was sorry. She told Sarah she'll talk to her later and that was it. They've still been texting and it seems Lauren and her husband will be okay with some time. Now we have to always coordinate that we're not coming to family events at the same time. Sarah and Lauren have already made plans to meet themselves though. As far as Sarah and I, we're doing okay. We had one pretty bad fight a few days after the last post went up. She wanted to know in excruciating detail everything about the type of guy I was before. Honestly, it felt like a CIA interrogation at one point. She cried and told me she wished she fell in love with someone else which hurt a lot. She apologized the next morning and we've been doing a lot better now. I think we're stronger now in fact, now that she knows everything. I'm also never ever doing that ancestry testing services all these companies do. I've also gotten a much better paying job that's fully remote. Sarah will talk with her boss to see how she can convert to full remote as well which we think is possible. We might be leaving sooner than we thought. Story 2. I live with a narcissist and I can't do this anymore. I am the only child of my parents. My dad passed away 3/4 years ago. He was the parent I was closest to. I did everything with him and we shared the same interest. He also TW me a lot in the name of discipline. Discipline instrument of choice was a belt. It could be the littlest thing from misbehavior to academics. I be TW. I still love him regardless. Where I'm from, I'm not a US resident. It's pretty normal to discipline your child that way. Growing up, I lived a comfortable life and my dad did almost everything for me. My mom on the other hand was almost never around as she was always pursuing higher education, so we weren't friends and never saw eye to eye. We spent family time together and spent time together generally, but I didn't have the same bond that I had with my father. With her, she would bitterly complain to my father that he was spoiling me and they have had a couple of fights about how he spent on me even though they were a couple that barely fought. I always knew deep down that my mother and I could never ever get along. Fast forward 3/4 years ago, my dad passed away from a liver disease brought on by either his hypertension or diabetes. I still mourn him till now and feel very empty without him. He was my best friend. He just took the wrong route in correcting me as a kid. I made a comment before he passed away about how my mother and I will never be able to coexist as we were vastly different people. He passed away shortly after and willed everything he owned into my name. He jointly shared everything with her, so I just took his part. Now after the will is read, a probate is supposed to be filed, then we pay whatever tax we need to pay and everything's in my name. We got the insurance shortly after he passed and my mom promised to file the probate after we got it. She didn't. She also lied to a lot of family members that I spent my part of insurance when she took it and left me a measly sum which I used for educational purposes. We also fought nonstop after he passed away because one thing I hate is lies against my name. To show you the type of person I'm living with right now, I once told her I wanted to start the gym to lose weight, and she got angry and called me an expensive girl. I kept quiet and let her rant because that's how everyone else deals with her, because she will not listen to you and create her own narrative in which she's always the victim. It seems me not retaliating made her want to get a reaction from me so bad that she said I'll be gone. Okay, I'll also be gone. You want me to be gone so I can stop nagging you? Dear reader, this was less than 3 months after my father passed away. You can imagine the shock on my face when she said that. That's just one instance where I've had to suffer because she's just a fuse waiting to blow up. Either December last year or January this year, I asked her why we hadn't filed the probate yet because I didn't feel comfortable signing under my father's name when we sold properties since he's passed. She threw a tantrum. She claimed I was trying to take properties from her and started to divide and tell me what I can and cannot take from her and what entirely belonged to her. I was in shock. She proceeded to call my cousin and tell her that my father didn't even leave the will in my name but rather just said he leaves it to his daughter, and that even if I make a claim, it can be refuted since it's not my name on it. My full government name is on that will and no one can claim anything from it except me. I was so shocked when I heard this because how can a biological mother think like this of her child? She said other things that were appalling that I cannot link here as it'll make this already long post long. She also said very disgusting things about my late father. Fast forward a couple of weeks later, we find out there's some money that we can claim from my dad's old job. Color me surprised when they insisted we need the probate to go ahead with filing and processing to get the money. Reader, her attitude completely changed. Now she made it seem as if she has always wanted the probate all along and when we get the money she'd file for it. I asked them again and they said we cannot get the money without the probate, and that's when she realized she had to get the probate to access that money. So we started the process. For context, I tried to unalive last year and my friends came to save me in the nick of time, so our bickering has reduced because she realized that she'd lose her child and then people will ask her what she did. So yesterday she said we had to meet today for the letter that we were supposed to go for last week to mail to a family member. I told her that I had no money for transportation and had a paper tomorrow, so we should have gone for it last week. She flew into a rage and called me self-centered and all sorts of names. I'm sure as I didn't listen to the rest of her rage-induced voice note. I hate being called certain names and mentioned certain things, which delved into another type of conversation which led to me reminding her of how I'd always be hurt if I didn't pass my exams, and that made me examination anxious, and how I've never shown her my results since junior high school as I didn't want to be punished or shouted on. This woman completely turned the entire thing around and said I said she and my father were horrible and wicked parents, and the fact that they gave birth to me should have been enough for me to forgive all the atrocities committed against me. These are people who TW and left marks on my body so I could tell my friends they did it so my friends would see I'm a bad child and not want to be friends with me anymore. The conversation just annoyed me as if I was speaking to a 5-year-old. She said I disrespected her by saying what I said and continued to go on a tangent. The one thing that would calm her heart was an apology, and she got it from me as I wanted it to end, and I thought that was the end. Reader, tell me why I woke up to several messages and voice notes trying to gaslight and guilt trip me. She claims I said things I never said, and all you need to do is scroll up in our chat to see that she's lying. I pointed it out and she said I'm disrespecting her by saying she shouldn't put words in my mouth. I told her it's enough and she should stop attaching meanings to my words. She said I implied that they're horrible parents because they TW. Meanwhile, I had clarified earlier that you can be good to someone and still hurt them, and that the fact that they were good to me does not negate whatever was done to me. They were good parents, but they still hurt me. I am thoroughly exhausted by this environment and living with someone who can only be the victim and not the villain. Oh, I forgot to mention that when I said stop attaching meanings to my words, she said I was ordering her. I just want us to finish filing this probate so I can thoroughly speak my mind, as my friends are equally tired on my behalf and wonder why not cut her off yet, but I still need to be under her roof and have nowhere to go. No one can live with her, but they expect me to be able to because she's my mother. Update, hi again. So I just wanted to update y'all on what happened. As part of her tantrum, she called me a liar for mentioning certain things, and I told her that I could swear on the Quran. We're Muslims, and if I'm lying may I perish, and she really said you're not afraid of death so you might as well go ahead. That statement stuck with me and is what I'd use once I cut her off. We did go and see the lawyer after she sent me money. In the eyes of the lawyer and in his presence, she acted all dandy and as if we were on good terms and chipped in when I was only speaking to the lawyer. We got a letter to send to my aunt in another city to confirm my dad is gone, and after my aunt signs it and we also sign, we will have a day in court where the probate is filed and then everything is finally in my name. The moment we left the place, she ignored my existence. She more or less snatched her bag from the floor when we left, so I couldn't even pretend to take it from her so she doesn't act a fool. She walked ahead of me while I walked behind her listening to music as we both headed to a place where we could get a bus home. She entered a restaurant to buy food and I followed her because she has this tendency to change the narrative and claim I didn't want to talk to her and ignored her if I had decided to actually leave and go my way. She bought food and ignored me while during our fight, I told her I hadn't eaten properly in about 3 days. I saw a friend in the restaurant and waited till she was near the door to say hi as I knew that she would try to embarrass me if she knew I knew anyone there. True to my thoughts, as soon as I said hi and told the person I was leaving, she turned around and more or less yelled at me and asked why I was following her around. The restaurant was almost full and there were a lot of people there. As I didn't want any further embarrassment, I waved my friend goodbye and walked out of the restaurant while telling her that because I want to. She kept on repeating it on the road and I told her that the bus going towards my route would be the same one I'd meet while following this route. She proceeded to say why am I following and I don't respect, or something along those lines, as I didn't take her bag from her and I'd made her hold all the bags she's holding. I reminded her of the fact that she more or less snatched the bag from the floor at the lawyer's office, so there's no way I was taking it from her, as it seemed as if she didn't want me to take it from her. Then she decided to keep reiterating why I'm following her and I told her that it's because I don't want her to change the narrative. I told her I know she's gonna tell people that I offended her and refused to talk to her and I'm the one sulking and I just want her to know I'm not angry. I could care less about the situation. I'm perfectly fine and I don't mind speaking to her, but she's the one who doesn't want to speak to me. She can be mad all she wants, as that's on her, but I don't want her to go around telling people that I'm mad at her when I don't care. I kept on saying that I was perfectly fine and wasn't emotional about the situation, that's why I'm following her, so she knows that I don't care about it anymore and she's the one who wasn't speaking to me and not the other way around. She kept quiet and didn't utter a single word after that. She'd be sending the letter to my aunt somewhere this week, so hopefully I can update y'all if anything comes up and if we were able to finish the process. I don't think she knows that she has effectively pushed her only daughter away. I told my boyfriend about what happened and he said it could only mean one thing, that she was jealous of me and has been jealous since I was a kid and she used to berate my dad. He's not the only one who's told me that and it just makes me sad. She doesn't know I have a boyfriend, as she's been trying to hint that she wants me to get married next year and she's deathly serious and I'm in no way, shape or form ready for marriage. She claims that she wants me to give birth and give my children to her to raise, and unless hell freezes over, that's not happening. Update: my mom's been lying to me for a very long time. I owned everything she and my dad had together. She's been lying to me about it. She's also been feigning ignorance and doing the probate. I found out from my father's lawyer, who contacted me, that she knew exactly what she was supposed to do. I also found out that we weren't supposed to do a letter of administration but rather a probate since my dad left a will. What I've realized is that ultimately, she doesn't want to answer to me in regards to the assets that have been left. I'm 23 and she's 50. She doesn't listen to anybody who tries to advise her. I plan on moving out. I have started to resent her. I've also updated my dad's friends on the situation I find myself in. I got some friends, who I'm no longer friends with anymore, who opened my eyes to her wrong ways. She has committed horrible acts, that she refuses to acknowledge, by selling some of the properties, and I was none the wiser because I trusted her and I was 19. I've realized her love is very conditional and it's motherly as long as I don't inquire about the properties. I intend to take her to court. She thinks she deserves everything for building with my father but doesn't seem to get the fact that she has no choice in this matter as long as I'm the sole beneficiary in my father's will. My eyes have also been opened to the fact that the marriage between my parents wasn't as picture perfect as I thought it was, and my father had a world of patience that I personally do not have. I finally realized that she is fully a narcissist and there's nothing I can ever do to change her. I plan on going minimal to no contact once I leave. Everyone tells me to have patience. I do not have that patience. My dad's friends are trying to exhaust all available avenues to get her to do the probate so I don't have to take her to court, because if I take her to court, she's going to jail. They want to have an at least cordial relationship for the sake of my late dad, and everyone understands exactly where I'm coming from, but where I'm from is very traditional. She's very oblivious to my findings as I know how to pretend everything is fine. I constantly cry. I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe I just thought she was strict or difficult growing up when it was so much more than that. She keeps lying to people that the reason she doesn't want to do the probate is because I would either A, be manipulated by a man to sell my father's properties. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Or B, I'm not mature enough. When it doesn't have to do with the properties, I'm the most mature person she knows, lol. As I mentioned previously in my older posts, she has no idea I've had a boyfriend before but still thinks no man can manipulate me as long as it has nothing to do with the property. She keeps making plans to sell stuff with no plan to invest but rather to travel the world. One of my dad's friends said that if she is antsy I can even give her a part so we don't ever have to talk about properties with each other to keep the peace, and it's so cute how he thinks it would work. She would not listen. She listens to no one but herself and her selfish desires. I'm just really tired of it all. I finished school in September and my godfather and my aunt have offered to talk to her before then. If she refuses to listen to them, I will be looking at my legal options, and I know it would be to take her to court. I at first had my dad's lawyer offering, but he's withdrawing and renouncing his name from the will as an executor because he doesn't want people to think he's the reason for a rift between my mom and I, because if he pursues the case, she's going to jail. He's advised me to seek legal counsel elsewhere and he would continue to advise me legally from the sidelines. Everyone I tell is very shocked this happened because I'm her only child. Everyone's confused as to why she's acting this way because I've never given her an inkling that I'm material or I would indiscriminately sell everything. She's just greedy.